Thanks for joining me. In today's instalment from the Rare Record Room, I'm going to describe and illustrate the early stereo pressings of the second UK long-playing record from the Beatles, 1963's With the Beatles. This was the album in which the group demonstrated their love of soul and R&B and further explored their own songwriting with 8 original songs, the same amount of group originals as they had written for their debut album Please Please Me. But for the first time on this LP, there was a self-penned song from guitarist George Harrison. One of the With the Beatles highlights, for me, is the Paul McCartney song All My Loving, with Lennon's jangly rhythm guitar, a classic walking bass line, a double-tracked McCartney vocal, and a twangy country-style guitar solo from George Harrison. This song perfectly encapsulates the sound of the group during the Beatlemania period. All My Loving was released as the title track of their 4th British extended play record in February 1964, reaching number 1 in the UK EP charts, where it stayed for 8 weeks. Famously, it was also the Beatles' opening number at their debut performance on the Ed Sullivan Show on the 9th of February 1964. With the Beatles LP was issued on the familiar and long-lived Parlophone black label design, first used in the late spring of 1963, up until 1969. This label features yellow and silver text printed on a black background. Copies pressed between those years will feature subtle variations within the label text, although the bold yellow company name was ever present. These differences are covered comprehensively within the Rare Record Price Guide, which I would encourage any interested person to consult. I will give a brief overview of these changes and show some examples of the stereo pressings, having already covered the early mono pressings in a separate video, which you may wish to check out. In fact, the label differences which apply to the first and second pressings of the mono LP, as well as the misprinted sleeves shown in that episode, are also found within the stereo first and second press copies, so you may find it quite useful to familiarise yourselves with that video. And so to the vinyl itself. The record shown here is the 1963 stereo first pressing, identified by the music publishing credit Joe Bett for the song Money, which is the final track on side 2. This credit was corrected on the second pressing, also from 1963, to Dominion Belinda. The record is issued under the catalogue number PCS3045 and the label states recording first published 1963. There is an embossed KT tax code near the spindle hole, indicating the amount of British purchase tax on this record. This may not appear on all copies. The rim text features the Parlophone Company wording, followed by an all rights reserved notice. Note that the bold stereo wording at 2 o'clock is in the same font size as the 33 1/3 RPM text. Some early copies also display a misprint on the label within the track listing, where the word gotta within You Really Got a Hold of Me, track 3 side 2, appears as one word gotta. This was amended to got a, printed as 2 words. The same mistake appears on the early sleeves as well. Incidentally, all sleeves for 1960s pressings of this LP were the flip-back variety. The third pressing, available from 1965 to 69, has the corrected text for Money, but also includes an added notice sold in the UK subject to resale price conditions. The bold stereo wording at the 2 o'clock position is now in a smaller font size than the 33 1/3 RPM text. The rim text now reads The Gramophone Company instead of the Parlophone Company, which is followed by an all rights reserved notice. The recording first published notice is no longer present, having been dropped from EMI labels in 1965. A misprint creeps in on this label on side 1 track 6, where the songwriter for Till There Was You, the composer Meredith Willson, has his surname misspelled with 1 L. The name was correctly spelled with 2 L's on the records pressed up to 1965. As far as I can tell, the misspelling remains throughout all remaining yellow and black 1960s copies and on all silver and black EMI copies throughout the 1970s, 80s and 90s. The third pressing is housed in a die-cut company inner sleeve with a tracing paper liner. The record cover features the stereo wording to the top margin in a reduced sized font. The fourth and final 1960s pressing on the yellow-black label appears for a short period in 1969, from summer till November, similar to the third pressing, with the corrected text for money, plus the gramophone company rim text, but without the sold in the UK text. The name Wilson is still misspelled, and the stereo wording remains in a smaller font size than the 33 1/3 RPM text. These are housed in non-die-cut paper sleeves, either with plain white or printed with sepia LP advertisements. The record cover is the same as the third press, with the stereo wording to the top margin in a reduced size font. At the very end of 1969, EMI Records revised their labels entirely, now with a black label printed in silver only and adding the boxed EMI logo. This occurred throughout their group of companies, which of course included Parlophone, for whom the Beatles recorded, and Columbia Records, who issued LPs from major acts such as Pink Floyd and the Yardbirds. I will cover these black and silver labels in a separate video. Values differ considerably for the various yellow and black label stereo pressings. Decent copies of the first pressing are listed at £250 or £200 for the second pressing, and both the third and fourth pressings are valued at £60 each. And that just about brings to an end my brief run through of the 1960s stereo pressings of With the Beatles. That's your lot for this episode from the Rare Record Room. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did like the video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more and to receive notifications for any new uploads. Thanks for watching. See you next time.